Albert Awol, the voice of the jungle, broadcasting on the DVC to all points unknown. If you're within the sound of my voice, you're listening to Welcome Home Podcast on the DVC.
Hello and welcome home. Thank you for joining us on episode 132 of Welcome Home, a Disney Parks and Vacation Club podcast. I'm Tom. I'm here with Trevor and Damon. Damon's here this week.
Hooray. Yay.
Damon, I made a joke last week that we fired you after your rant, and but your post to the group kind of ruined it.
I didn't know.
It's okay. It's all right. What's going on?
I played tennis this morning. I think it's the first real thing I've done in like a year and... Gosh, it feels like a year and something. So...
Nice.
Yeah.
Did you play against like one of your kids or like...
My daughter's, so she's starting to play tennis. So I took her out on, this morning, and we'll probably do that every weekend. Since she's still new. She's going to lessons once a week, but she still needs some time to get out there and, do stuff.
All right. Well, I was going to say if it was one of your, I know your sons, you don't want them to beat you. So
yeah, no, it was not them. It was not them.
That's good.
My oldest is actually at soccer ID camp, and my middle one's out biking somewhere. I don't know where they are. And they get older, you don't know what happens to them, where they are and what they're doing.
I gotcha.
Yeah, mine's the same way. He says, I'm going out. He gets on his bike and leaves, and I assume he'll be back at some point.
At some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has his phone, so it's fine.
I have a slightly different situation, but
yeah.
Yeah. I spent the weekend converting my daughter's toddler bed into a full bed, so that was fun.
Sadly,
covered
both
it
of
with
you
frozen things. Yeah. What?
Both of you were far more exciting than me. The only thing I did this weekend was water seal my driveway, which you're probably saying, what the heck does that mean? And it's because here in the winter with all the salt and everything, if you don't protect your driveway somewhat, it actually, like, the concrete breaks down. So,
oh jeez.
So I'm surprised they don't do asphalt up there. Why do they do concrete?
Because asphalt falls apart just as fast as concrete.
Okay.
It's worse because it's a rubber mixture. It doesn't hold up as well to the winter. So driveways are typically concrete. But yeah, the funny thing is you hear me saying, well, I'm water sealing for the winter. And you're saying, why wouldn't you do that into the fall? But it actually this is the best time of year to do it because you want it really hot so that when you put the sealant on, it has time to cure and everything properly. So yeah, I'm that boring.
Listen, putting a bed together is not that exciting either. But I also went shopping for I had to get sheets and comforter and all that stuff. So now she's got a very frozen room. It's very, very frozen too right now. There's a lot of the frozen sheets and stuffed animal, all that stuff. So
nothing wrong with
anyway. What's that?
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yep.
All right. So we got questions.
Okay. Who wants to go first? Okay,
I'll go first. That's fine.
All right.
If Disney were to build, this is from Francisco. If Disney were to build a back gate entrance to Magic Kingdom with a new DVC resort, where would you place it, and what theme are you going with?
Okay, so when you say back entrance, I immediately went to, so you're putting it behind Fantasyland, but that's not what Francisco means.
No, I think that's what I think Francisco is going for, like a boardwalk resort at Magic Kingdom.
Okay.
Like to have like a back entrance to get in, and where would you put it? Now, I don't know if you guys have ever done this, but I have several times now accidentally driven backstage at Magic Kingdom, like on the cast member roads. Mm-hmm. And it's not meant for public consumption. It's very industrial, right? It's not.
Yeah.
You'd really have to, if you did it somewhere back there, you'd really have to pretty it up a bit. I do think there was a rumor a while ago that they were going to build weren't they going to build like a Moana thing, or it was going to like connect up to Adventureland or something. I'm trying to remember. There was a rumor on this a while ago.
Yeah.
But I think, that space between Grand Flirty and Magic Kingdom is probably a good place for another resort.
Yeah. The whole thing was that there was going to be a roller coaster added, and then a Moana resort was the...
Yeah. Yeah, well, that way though, like if you put something there, it's not really a back entrance, right? It's a front entrance because a resort there would just feed right into the main gate anyway.
Yeah, it's just further along the resort loop, and then yeah. But the problem is there's that canal there, so you would have to be on the outside of the canal that they use for transporting stuff out of rivers of America.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so
that's true. So put it somewhere in the back, like maybe we go like Frontierland. You could make a cool like frontier kind of place, and then you walk in right by Big Thunder, you know. So I'm already going. Well, we have Wilderness Lodge, but That's true. Yeah.
But do you feel that like a Frontierland themed resort, like full on, I don't know, like Wild West type of thing?
I feel like you kind of get that at Fort Wilderness, you know. I feel like that's more, that's kind of got that theme already, you know.
Yeah, I mean it's very cowboy, and I mean there's horses and stuff like that.
Yeah, So that theme's kind of already taken, is what you're saying.
Yeah, my thought was I was actually going to the other side towards Tomorrowland and thinking about, well, you know, you could do a very like super futuristic resort. Kind of behind Tomorrowland, so connecting back into Tomorrowland past Tron, and then have something very, again, a Tomorrowland resort. But then what I realized the problem there is that the Contemporary, I feel, is already trying to fill that, and especially with the latest, I know we'll get into talking about the room renos that they've just done. But I feel that it's already kind of filling that space. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else you could do with Magic Kingdom specifically.
I mean, your initial feeling was Fantasyland. You could do something with that, right? I mean,
something cartoony, like a nice All-Star or a nice Art of Animation. Yeah, there we go. A nice Art of Animation.
Are you saying Art of Animation isn't nice?
No, that's exactly what I'm saying. It's not. Right. It's not DVC nice, is it?
Well, no, it's not.
Okay. So the same theme, but just that would work for me.
How would you do that though? Like, how do you make that because cartoony and nice, I feel like don't always.
You can have nice cartoony things.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just saying, how do you make it super classy? Like
animation type stuff, right? Like think about it, right? You go into that art store, that's classy. Doesn't it feel classy when they're selling cells?
That's true. Yeah.
Same sort of thing. You just do classy artwork in cells rather than, the not classy version, which is art animation.
Yeah. I feel like the design, like how they did the backgrounds in like Sleeping Beauty and stuff, where it was like these very nicely drawn backgrounds, and they would, and the cells were set up that like they would pan through the cells. It would almost need to be like that. Like it would have to be designed that, it looks very picturesque, but almost taking that old school, I can't shoot. What was the technique called where they
is it multiplane? Like it was like a multiplane camera, I think is what it was, but I don't know what the actual technique was. Yeah,
but like taking something like that and turning it into a resort design, that's what I would envision as a fancy cartoon.
We're saying this, and I'm thinking back to the concept art we saw of Reflections, not the outside, but the inside, and what they were doing. And this is kind of what they were doing. They were doing like super classy, versions of those cartoons, of like the classic cartoons, if I remember correctly. I seem to remember being like a really cool, really upscale looking, there was like a Pocahontas area. There was, oh man, I'm trying to remember. It's a while ago now, but I feel like Reflections was almost kind of doing that, but not as like a backdoor to Magic Kingdom, but
right.
But anyway,
yeah, okay. I think we've kind of explored that one as far as we can go at the moment. So yeah.
But if you have ideas, talk about them in the group.
Yeah, let's hear it. All right.
Question.
Yeah.
Dan's got two questions in today's.
Yeah. So actually, I'm going to read them in reverse order because I feel the first one's going to be a bit longer talking. So the second one's actually a comment. Is that he says, "My oldest just got his driver's permit, and you won't believe how much the Tomorrowland Speedway has prepared me for this." I can understand that because as kids get older, like initially when they get it, they're like, when they start driving on Tomorrowland Speedway, they realize, hey, I can just, swerve left and right and it'll stay on the tracks. And so they do silly stuff like that. But then as they get older, they kind of hit that mentality of, they want to keep it straight, or, they realize that it's a harder challenge to actually keep the car straight than it is to crash it into the barriers.
Oh, for sure. Because anytime I've ever gone on it, like, as just me, like not with kids, I've always, my goal has always been when I drive those to try to keep it in the center and not hit the guardrail at any point. But it's like impossible.
Mm-hmm.
It's like impossible to do. But I've always tried to do that. But yeah, that is funny, because I do know a lot of parents, will take their kids on that, and that's like the first taste they get of driving a car,
Yeah. So yeah, I feel you on that one, Dan.
And then Dan also wants to know, what are some features that make for a great ride queue for you? That's a tough question.
So, short.
What would you say, Damon?
Short, cool.
Short queue.
Short, cool queue. Actually, the Little Mermaid one is one of the best because it's nice and cool in there.
I was going to say, do you mean temperature cool, or do you mean like it's cool looking?
Temperature.
You mean temperature?
Yeah. The fact that it's made it mostly out of concrete means that it actually stays very cool even when it's quite hot out.
Absolutely.
Well, it's also a gigantic queue for a ride that's constantly moving and never has a line. So
that would be the perfect queue of all time.
Yeah, that's pretty much It's a huge queue, and it's there's also some cool stuff. There's some cool interactive stuff in that queue too, with the little crab guy. There's some neat stuff you could do with that. I like the interactive stuff, but I don't like the interactive stuff where it's holding up the line. That kind of drives me crazy.
Yeah, that's my thing. Is that I like things that stand out, or something that you can touch something or pull something, but when it turns into a game, or it turns into something where people get so engaged in it that they forget that they're in a line, that's where I start to dislike it. So for me, the Indiana Jones ride has a couple of features in it where it's like, you pull a rope and you hear a guy, it sounds like he crashes at the bottom of this cave and stuff like that. So those are, it's a very quick thing. You get a reaction out of it, but then you move on. Like it's not enough that it keeps somebody there messing with it. So stuff like that versus, as much as I liked it in Space Mountain when they had the games where everyone would play the asteroid game against each other or whatever, that was the worst, because you would literally have groups of people standing there playing the game, and then you're in a position where it's like, well, do I just walk past these people because they're busy doing something, or do I stop and wait? So
I feel like a similar one to that was the Seven Dwarfs one with the gem game. That one was bad too. Like that one, people would actually all of the interactive features of that queue, people would stand there forever. Like the water fountain things, the little barrels that you spin. Everybody would be standing there for so long on those. Like Winnie the Pooh has a lot of those. I see. For me, like I don't need all the interactive stuff necessarily. I like it, but I also like the small details. The little small, like. Even if you don't like the Smuggler's Run ride, that queue is pretty cool. There's just so many cool details in there, and it's just kind of a really interesting place to walk through. And of course, everybody, and I know Damon doesn't care for Flight of Passage, but I mean, there's that queue is pretty legendary for having cool stuff in it.
And that queue is good. The queue is better than the ride.
The queue is amazing.
One of my friends just went to Disney last week, and he hadn't been in forever. And he tried to tell me that ride was the best ride there. And I was like, you're out of your mind.
That's what everyone says except for you, David.
The thing is that, but when I questioned him, I said, do you have an Oculus? And he was like, yes. I go, okay. And now tell me what's different about that. And he couldn't. And I said, exactly. And
everything is different about it. There's no movement. There's no,
what
effects.
Movement?
There's no.
I can sway side to side on my Oculus and I'm good. Like it's the same thing.
It's not the same thing.
It really is though when you think about it. Like going to watch that video again because I was like, let me go watch that video. The graphics are terrible. Like they're terrible. It's not immersive, and it's like being in an old cartoon right? Where I feel like that ride should have been immersive to the point of, I understand it's a cartoon, but it's just not good enough. I'm sorry to say, it's just not good enough graphically for it to be a good ride. I just don't think there's enough that goes on.
But if you're watching it though, you're watching the blurry version.
That's what I was going to say.
You're
watching the non-3D.
Yeah.
You can watch, you understand you can watch a 2D version of a 3D without having 3D glasses, right? You're just going to get one end of it, but you can still watch it, right? It's not like you need the glasses, but I'm saying is that 3D or not 3D doesn't impact the quality of the graphics. It's very long in the tooth from when they first started, and that shouldn't be where it should be innovative. It's my whole thing about being innovative, right? Like, that should be the coolest looking graphics you've ever seen, but when I can buy a $6,000 computer that's going to blow those graphics out of the water, man, that just doesn't do it for me.
I just think it's funny that everyone says that that's like the greatest ride, and you hate it. But
it's funny when
everyone else is wrong.
But when he was questioned on it, he couldn't come up with a reason, right? And I said the same thing. I said, "Could you buy a computer that gives you better graphics than that?" And he goes, "Yes." I said, "Then what's the ride?"
I mean,
right? Like, dude, I could go ride Hang On, right? What is that called? That arcade game that was the
Hang
motorcycle?
On? Yeah,
yeah, right. I could ride that. It's the same thing. It's just not that impressive.
All right, I think we spent enough time on that one
in
the past before about your hate for that ride. But I think the graphics look good, but they probably could do better now, though. Yeah, I mean, you're probably right,
and that would have been okay, but they could have done better then, and that's where it really hurts.
Well, I mean, they do these things years ahead of time, though, too. These things take years to do, so. There was actually a whole thing about this in the Imagineering story where one of the Imagineers were talking about how challenging it is to build a ride now because you have to.
You're already behind before you start.
Yeah, you're already behind once you start.
That's the difference between having something that's actually imaginative, and then trying to chase technology, right? Yes, absolutely. If you're trying to chase technology, it is very difficult because things that come out. But if you're actually imaginative and it's cool to begin with, then it doesn't matter. And it just hasn't been anything like that lately.
I think that's the problem that Flight of Passage runs into that you're saying, Damon, is that, they started it back, with a certain level of technology, and it relied heavily on that technology. But then by the time it came to fruition, it was already
People
behind.
Had them in their house.
Yeah. It was already behind versus, disconnecting themselves from, trying to make it the most technologically advanced, ride.
Yeah, put puppets on that ride instead, and I'm all in.
Yeah,
puppets.
Imagine if it was just an open area in front of you, and it was just animatronic puppets that you're flying through, throwing stuff at you. Like, I'd be for that ride. That would be the best.
Such an odd ride.
But tell me that wouldn't be innovative. You'd be like, oh man, there's freaking puppets on this thing. Like, yeah, okay, that's what I want.
Just question, Damon. Do you play Five Nights at Freddy's?
I have. I mean, but not to the point where like I'm interested in it. But yes, I have. So I understand the reference.
Yeah. Sorry. I know that wasn't what you meant, but it just seems funny. Like that's what I imagine when you say just puppets in an open area. Right?
It's so funny because I've been watching that show Barbarian and the Troll, which on Nickelodeon, which just finished up this week. The way that they're doing puppets now is so unreal. It's so cool. And I was like, man, like I watch that show and think to myself, this is just cool. I just wonder if there was a way to incorporate like that into a ride, like really good puppetry into a ride. So that's what I envision as my best ride.
Something tactical and
imagine
actually,
Avatar and puppets. Think about that. Like that would be so cool.
I mean, you mean like actual puppets, that not like animatronics? Like
actual puppets.
Well, not animatronics. You're talking about
animatronic puppets.
Okay.
You
mean
like
the puppets are being controlled by animatronics.
Like the shaman at the end of Navi River Cruise, but more of that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but even more puppety.
Even more puppety?
Yeah, go full puppet mode.
Okay.
This took a turn that I didn't think it was going to take. Oh my gosh.
All right. Let's for the sake of time, let's keep moving. So
you know what? Jody's question though kind of leads into this a little bit.
Yeah, the puppets.
Not really, but it's talking about utilizing ride technology. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, so Jody says, you may have answered this before I joined the group, but here it goes. So Jody's a fairly new listener, which we appreciate. If you could take a current Magic Kingdom or any park attraction, keep the theme, but change the attraction and utilize current ride technology, which would it be and how would you make it better? And then she goes on to say, for example, Mad Tea Party is based on Alice in Wonderland. Would you change the attraction to a dark ride, which is moderately thrilling, where your ride vehicle descends down a rabbit hole and you have screens that make you feel big in one room and small in another room, and then have to escape the Queen of Hearts, something similar to Escape from Gringotts. I was going to say, actually, there is already an Alice in Wonderland ride in Disneyland, but not quite as exciting as this. But we already have a dark ride for Alice in Wonderland.
Right. So it's interesting that like her example is comparing it to something at Universal.
Right.
Just saying.
You're doing this again?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying. I'm just making a point here. I don't know. For me, a dark ride I would make a dark DuckTales ride, but there is no current ride.
Well, so take an existing ride at one of the parks that you think could be reimagined as a different ride.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I mean, so you could, if you wanted to, Damon, you could get rid of Figment and make it DuckTales if you wanted to.
No, I think, but that's, see, I don't understand here. So I think we have to keep the theme, but change the attraction. So you couldn't do DuckTales.
You have to keep the theme? Okay.
You have to keep the theme.
Okay, I got
that's okay, go ahead.
All right, here. So here's my thinking. I would like to see the Jungle Cruise redone, but so still the cruise, but incorporate elements from rides such as Pirates and Splash Mountain, so that you have sections of it where you go down rapids, you have more action to it, but it still is following the theme of the Jungle Cruise. So it's not just the boat ride around the rivers, but some actual like more roller coaster-esque movement to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's an interesting idea, Trevor, because like they have the technology now that they use for Pirates in Shanghai, where they've like trackless boats where they can spin the boat backwards and stuff like that. How cool would that be if they could do that on Jungle Cruise, where they could like spin the boat backwards at some point, and your driver, why am I blanking on the name? Your Jungle Cruise, I couldn't think of Skipper. Your Jungle Cruise skipper could make a joke about that, or like lose control of the boat. Like there's so many cool things they could do with that.
And then, like I said, adding some slopes into it as well. So, like you said, combining that kind of technology, like, if you go into like the cave area and, suddenly it feels like you're moving really fast down, a small waterfall or rapids or something like that. But, again, they're really good at making it feel like it's more than what it is. That's what I would like to see for a redesign of the Jungle Cruise.
That's cool.
Yeah, I don't know if I can think of anything better than that. That's a pretty good one.
I was gonna say that's a pretty good answer. I don't know what else I would say to that.
Sorry, I'll set the bar lower next time.
I mean, we could do a Thunder Mountain, right? Like that would be interesting. But a Thunder Mountain that's a little bit of a better roller coaster, right? Yeah, and
more storytelling than just the roller coaster,
like Verbolten style. Big Thunder Mountain.
I'm going trackless ride vehicles and Figment. Like,
that would be interesting.
There's so many cool things you could do with the trackless ride vehicles and Figment.
Yeah, and I mean, Figment in and of itself, is just chaos.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
and that would lend itself very well to a trackless ride system.
Yep, exactly. Because trackless ride systems, you can have chaos, right? Like it's controlled chaos, but it's that's the whole. I mean, that's a lot of what Mickey and Minnie's is really, is that you're on a train and then all of a sudden all the train cars come apart and you're going all sorts of different directions. Same kind of thing. So it's you could do that really with Figment and have some fun with that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I think we got that.
Cool.
Tanya wants, what is the resort monorail like from Poly? This is a Trevor question. During the early morning, pre-rope drop, we staying at Boardwalk, but have friends staying at Poly during the beginning of our trip. We were planning on doing a mobile order, quick stop in the morning, the quick service in the morning, and doing drive and park, grab breakfast, and hop in line for the monorail. Is the monorail packed in the AM? Do all the TTC people fill it up before it even gets to Poly? So, Trevor, what is your experience with this?
So what I've seen with this is, so there's two different lines. There's the direct line to Magic Kingdom, and there's the resort line. It's the direct line that's always packed for the monorail, and so keep in mind, we tried taking the monorail once. And the biggest challenge with the resort loop monorail is that even in the morning, it's not, or I didn't feel it was moving as fast, or that it was getting us there any quicker than getting on the ferry. Because the ferries are always, there's 3 ferries moving, and it's a lot more volume, and they move people through a lot quicker than the monorail. So, I get the take is, have breakfast and then you're at the ceremonial house and you just walk upstairs and hop on the monorail and go. Early morning though, honestly, I haven't paid too much attention to what the resort monorails were doing early in the morning, because, after the one experience we had where we ended up waiting there for, just waiting for 10 minutes, and then we had to get on the monorail, stop at, we stopped at Contemporary. I can't remember which way the resort loop goes, but I remember
Doesn't it go Poly and then Grand Floridian, or is Grand Floridian last? I'm trying to remember. I just was on it too. I'm blanking right now. Yeah, it goes that direction, right?
Yeah,
so it goes from Poly to Grand Floridian, and then Grand Floridian.
The problem is you're not getting there quick. Like you're still having to make another stop no matter which way you go. So my take on that is, if you're eating at the Poly, I would go and get onto one of the resort boats, which again are fairly close to the ceremonial house, or you can, spend 5 minutes walking over to the TTC and get on the ferry. So, I get the
ferry
idea.
Is less magical though than the monorail, right?
It is, but if you're talking, it sounds like Tanya's desire is to get over there with the minimum stress, she's worried about, is it packed in the morning? Yes. I guess that's the first thing is I've never not seen any of those transportation modes busy when you're talking about rope drop. Like that's just how it is. Personally, I would go with the highest volume one, which is the ferry, but I would, I don't know how much I would chance taking the resort loop monorail early in the morning.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
It wasn't bad when I was there, but once it gets back to normal, if we're assuming things are normal, then it's a little different, right? So
yeah.
But when I was there, it was not bad.
Yeah. And I guess the other thing to keep in mind too is that, and like I said, that the problem is that it stops at the other resorts. So you end up, you get on at the Poly, and it may not be packed when you're on at the Poly, but then more people are going to get on at Grand Floridian. So, and I mean, it's only for one stop, but you're still dealing with all of that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. The next thing we had on the list, Damon wanted to talk about sporks and underwear and something else.
Yeah. Okay.
Wait, we're already there already?
Yeah.
We're there already, Damon. Yeah, we're there already.
Oh man, I was ill prepared. I was designing logos. I was doing other stuff. Gosh.
Spoilers.
I'll tell you, it comes up quick.
It does.
So recently it was interesting. I finally ordered a set of sporks, and my wife was like making fun of me. She thought like, well, this is so stupid. Like, why do we need sporks in the house? Like, they're just this novelty. Dude, sporks are it. So like on Amazon, on Amazon, you can order, good stainless steel sporks for a pretty cheap amount. And, they've been getting a lot of use in the house, so much so that I don't think that I order 6 or 8 of them. I feel like they're never there anymore, that I've kind of been disappointed by it. So I just don't know why sporks aren't a normal kitchen, utensil. Like what happened in the life of sporks that kind of put them in the gutter and made them such, a laughable utensil?
It's funny, Damon, because I would say at least 2 to 3 times a week, my wife and I will cook something for dinner, and the question will be fork or spoon.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And the spork solves both. You just spork, like, because there's so many things that you could use either for, and neither one is the best utensil.
But like, you couldn't have people over you couldn't have a spork at Thanksgiving dinner, even though it would be the best thing. But why not? Like, what happened to the spork? Like, what made it such a
I don't know,
terrible utensil? Because
it looks weird. I don't know.
Maybe, but I think people are missing out on the spork. I would say that after now having them for a few weeks, it's a go-to utensil. It definitely is a game changer. Utensil. It really is. Go ahead, Trevor.
I have a bit of a hot take on that. Going back to talking about theme parks, why would theme parks not use sporks?
Everywhere.
Instead of having, forks, spoons, and knives, you can cut down, a third of the utensils that you need to have stocked.
Is there a stupidity factor that we're not thinking about? Like with a spork, if you're using the spoon end of a spork, I guess you could do yourself some harm.
I mean,
the spork it's not dull. Let's put it that way. Like when I'm using the spork, like I have to, especially a metal spork to boot, I kind of have to, be intelligent enough not to spork myself in the face with it. Like, I guess that's maybe it's that.
Yeah, maybe it's because, as children, we're brought up with, you start with a spoon and then you work your way up to a fork. And maybe that's where that mentality comes from, is that people, because
don't want to go backwards. You don't want to,
Yeah. But maybe it's just, being brought up, you're thinking, hey, I need a fork and a spoon for different activities.
Well, the spork that they sell in Galaxy's Edge, though, was like pretty popular, right? That was like a popular.
That's what I'm saying.
People were stealing them for a while
because it looks different. That's the whole thing, is that it was something different and something unique. But
sure,
to that end, why could they not have to? They could make compostable sporks for the when you go to a quick service and they have the utensil things. Why not have sporks there instead of spoons and forks?
Interestingly enough, though, the fact that they only sell those in Galaxy's Edge, is that their way of saying that sporks are like a weird otherworldly thing that you'd only find?
That's what I'm saying. They kept a lot of spork hate.
That's the impression.
I can relate to sporks.
Yeah, I can relate to sporks.
I can relate to sporks.
Can we make that a t-shirt?
Yeah,
I can relate to sporks.
I want to put that on a t-shirt. I can relate to sporks.
So let's see. So, it came across recently, even as I buy more points. Again, people don't listen to the podcast. I am buying more points. Guess what? That means I don't hate Disney. But that being said, is that, the magic lessening with each trip, I was starting to think about this more and how many times I would theoretically want to go to Disney a year, which is why this all came up, because it looks like I'm going to end up with 100 points. My parents are going to end up having to buy 150. So by the way, as a new DVC member, you have to have 150. You can't just buy in at 100, right? So I know that there was a little bit of a question there. And even though I'm going to be on the contract because I'm not the primary, they still have to buy 150.
Yeah, we had a question about that the last time we talked about this.
Yeah.
So now you know the answer. There you go.
So that's the answer. So my parents are buying 150, when in theory they'll eventually be mine, right? So I was like, how many points do I need, and how many times a year before I'm like, it's Disney? Right? Like in terms of magic, right? I don't think that I'll ever be like, I don't want to go there, or, I don't want to use that as vacation time, because obviously I'm buying more points. But, I think there is for me definitely this number that lessens the magic of Disney. And I don't know what that is yet, but I would say it's probably in that 4 to 5 times a year range, where it's not as special if I'm going that much.
So you're talking about like 4 to 5 full weeks, or are you talking just like
4 to 5 trips, I would think. Yeah. I wonder what everyone else thinks about that. Like, especially people that don't live there, because I think if you live in Florida, it's a different mentality. So, I'm not going to comment on that, but I'm just thinking for the people that live further away. But I think that's kind of my number, is probably 4 to 5 is probably too much per year. 4 is kind of on the cusp, but I'd say 5 is too much. So that was another thing I was thinking about in my random thoughts. And then the other thing is underwear. I'm in this whole new world of pouched underwear, right? So we see all these Hanes commercials, and maybe you're not seeing them up in Canada, Trevor, but there's some pretty funny Hanes commercials now. Tom, I'm assuming you've seen them.
I have, yes, and
okay,
I know
right?
exactly what you're talking about.
Okay,
so
I'm curious now, but
well, you can go and watch them. But I started thinking about Disney then and walking around. So I decided to buy some of the Hanes, and I'm going to tell you it's a rabbit hole, because once you go down that pouch avenue, there's so many different types of pouches and takes on it.
Yeah.
And so many different companies. So then I was like, okay, well, knowing me, right? I'm like, all right, well, the Hanes are okay, but I wonder if there's better out there, right? I wonder if there's better pouched underwear. And you should see. So Sepratech makes these underwear that, as you can tell from the word, it separates everything. But it was
I feel like I'm going to have
because,
to mark this episode explicit now.
well, no. We're
kidding,
keeping it family friendly. But what's nice about it is that when you're doing a lot of walking, one of the things it says is it kind of keeps everything separate for, airflow, let's say.
Yeah, sure.
And I would say that the Sepratechs, which are not that expensive, even though I had to figure them out, like there's underwear that I had to figure out how they work, are really pretty good. And I'm kind of, like I said, I've tried this company called Tradie also, which has pouch, and there are, some others on my list. But I think from, the amount of walking and the swampiness that happens, having good underwear is, probably not as good as having a pair of good shoes. But I would say that it might be second in that area of comfort. And, there's all sorts of, there's cooling ones, which I don't know how that, where there's ones that are like, I think Duluth has some that are sewn with jade fibers or something like.
I actually have those.
with the pouch though, or non-pouch?
Not with that. No.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, it was an interesting thing, but I think that as, we go to Disney, it might be something that's well worth it. I also go for a longer boxer brief, which then is also, as you separate everything, you're less inclined to get that Disney rash that some people get from walking. Mm-hmm. But I do like the longer length boxers where my kids do not. They think they're stupid. So, but it is just something to think about. There is underwear out there that is, just as game changing in terms of a lot of walking as, so, maybe, some other sort of thing. So I'm going to continue down that path, but the Sepratechs are interesting. You can look them up. They did require a little bit of thought first. When you see them and you'll be like, wait, does everything go? No, it just, they're interesting.
Can I interject for a moment that, so first of all, so I feel a little bit vindicated here because, for years, I've been looking at not just underwear, but clothing in general, because coming from a colder climate, going down, like if I wear the stuff that I wear around here down to Disney, I will be sweating all day long and it's not comfortable at all. So I get where you're going with this is that, it matters what you wear down there and it matters to dress for the climate that you're going to. The big thing is making sure things are breathing and you're not getting, rashes and what kind of stuff. Okay. I'll admit, yes, I've used the Sepratech underwear for years at this point because yes, it works. It does actually work and it's far more comfortable going down to Florida with stuff like that because, like you said, you're not sweating to death.
But it took me a minute though, Trevor, to figure them out.
Yeah. No, I see that.
Right.
Yeah.
I was like, does everything go in there? Like, that's impossible. Like,
no.
We've alienated all of our female listeners at this point.
I know this is a weird conversation for people, but like I said, I feel a little bit vindicated because of the fact that, my wife was like, why are you putting so much effort into this? And it's like, because I want to be comfortable while we're down there. I don't want to be spending half of my trip going, God, I need to find somewhere just to cool off from it because I am sweating to death in my own clothes.
Yeah, I think that, again, all joking aside, as we go to Disney, right? Like, this is something that is definitely helpful, as you go to Disney. And, people can take it as such. I mean, it's funny to talk about, but it is definitely, something that you should think about. And again, the Sepratechs, Trevor, are not that expensive. Again, some of the,
no, they're not.
Duluth
Even
trading
up here,
ones are like
not.
$50, but like I would say the Separatex, I think I got 2. Is it possible that I got 2 for like 20 or something like that? It seems like they're in that range.
Up here, it was a 2-pack was like $34 or something, which, considering
that would track then for 20 something, maybe 28 down here. That would make sense. But definitely worth it. I've gotten rid of a bunch of my older underwear to kind of fill up on these new underwears. But so far, Trevor, I would say they're my favorite right now. But again, I've only tried 3. Mm-hmm. And the Hanes are a good starting point, right? I think they're like 3 for $18.
Cheap, yeah.
Yeah, they're cheap. They're a good starting point, but they're nowhere near the same level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Along those lines, something I always tell people, because I always have this problem. Something we always bring with us is a friction stick. Have you ever seen this? It's like a deodorant basically for like the inside of your legs, but it keeps you from getting from getting.
But you don't need that anymore. That's the best thing. Like if you get these underwear, like I know the tradies, what was interesting about them, and again, they were nicer quality probably than the Separatex. The Separatex material is not phenomenal, right? Like it's more of the way that it works. But the tradies were really nice material, and the inside is bamboo on your thighs where they would in theory rub. Yeah. Is made out of bamboo. So like they've taken that into account. So like you don't even need anything else if you're wearing these because the rubbing is at a different material. So it's specifically built to not have that happen.
This is I was wondering how you were gonna like connect this to like the show, but it makes sense.
Yeah, it's.
I think if Tom doesn't put underwear in the title, we were doing a disservice to the show.
Yeah,
Disney underwear recommendations has to be in the title.
That's a really long piece though. Like I gotta keep it concise.
It's gotta go in there.
Yeah,
it's gotta go in there.
I think it is. It's funny because you're right that this isn't something that. Whenever you're reading up on Disney, people are always talking about, the shoes that you bring and stuff like that. Nobody talks about the, the larger, like, hey, you have to, you stop.
If you saw what I just typed in chat, it was funny.
Yes, you distracted me. Thank you.
Yeah.
People don't think about what the rest of it, like,
feel.
Yeah. Or,
don't
like,
get it twisted.
we talk about backpacks. Like I said, for me, it's been years of thinking about this stuff, but nobody else talks about it, like from a standpoint of, hey, I'm not used to being in this climate and I need something here that makes sure that I'm not being sweaty all day.
I've had that rash once at Disney. And like you're coming home and putting coming back to the DVC and putting ice packs on it. So I feel that like I'm not trying to deal with that.
I get the I get the Disney rash on my ankles and like my calves. I don't know why. I get it like almost every time we go. I've been to the doctor about it several times, and my doctor never knows what to do about it. So
it's a heat rash. Yeah,
it's like a heat rash, but it sticks around for a couple weeks.
Hey, listen, ankles isn't as bad as thighs. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But I know a lot of people get it, but I didn't get it this last trip, but I think when we're there for a week, typically I do get it, and it's not fun. I wish I could figure out how to prevent it. I've tried a million different things, but it's tough.
Maybe there's Separatex socks.
There you go. I also don't like wearing socks, but I do at Disney. In general, I'm not a big sock guy, but
my wife laughed at me for buying merino wool socks, which have been the best thing ever.
Yeah,
like. Even when it's hot here, they're still comfortable.
Yep.
I like that this. That we should introduce our new sponsor, Separatex. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right.
I think Damon's wanted an underwear sponsor for a while on the show.
I totally would. Yeah.
If they want to send us free underwear, I wouldn't be against that.
No,
so.
I wouldn't be against that either. I'm sorry to all of our female listeners that had to listen to this for the past 10 minutes.
But they all make underwear as well. It's not like,
of course.
Yeah. So to flip it around the other way, obviously, we're all talking about from our point of view, but I know that there is similar challenges, for women as well. Like it's a general discussion about, not just thinking about, what Disney t-shirt am I wearing, but, making sure that you're comfortable while you're down there. Right.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
We keep saying down there, and that just is making me laugh.
Sorry, down there. I mean, coming from Canada to Florida, going further south from where I am.
Well, it's down there for Damon and I too. So.
Yes, but also down there.
Yeah. Was that all of your topics, Damon? Or did you add something else?
I think that was it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we'll do this one last piece here, and then we'll do our ad. But I thought it was interesting. I saw some people like kind of flipping out about this, and I don't know why. But DVC has eliminated their optional housekeeping services. So there was an optional service you could have where you could pay between $15 and $35 to have them come and do like a cleaning of your room. I'm sorry, there was trash and towel services. Yeah, those were trash and towel. Yeah. And then you could have the full room cleaning for $30, $45, $60, depending on the size of the room. But this was like an extra service to basically clean your room more often. For me, I'm just like, I don't need that. Like, if I need more towels, I'm just going to call the desk. Like, I don't know. Or steal them from the pool. Like, you know. I just think it's odd that people are upset about this one.
Yeah, I'm also of the opinion, you know, I don't care that much about having, like, when I'm in the room, it's like, you know, I'm there for a week. I accept that, you know, the room is going to be in the state that it's in for the week. As long as the trash is being taken care of, that's the only thing I care about. Because, you know, after, like, I've stayed at hotels before where they haven't cleaned out the trash, and after about, you know, 3 days, it's like, okay, come on, like, yeah. And they've been doing
daily trash service, right? Daily
exactly.
Trash service is still a thing.
Yeah. So that's a moot point. The towel thing, like you said, you know, it's a matter of, if I really need towels, I call down for towels. If or, you know, yeah, you go to the pool and, you know, you can take a towel back with you. I know you're not supposed to, but, you know, I think everybody's
really care, though.
I think everybody's done it at some point. So yeah. I mean, I'm not advocating for it. Don't make it a regular thing, and then, you know, they take away towels at the pool or something like that. But
yeah, I just, you know, it's one of those things, like, before this existed, and even while this existed, if you didn't opt for the service, you just call the desk and they'll bring more towels up. Like, there's never like, it's never been an issue. Like, I just never necessarily understood the need for this. Like, I guess if you feel like you need your room cleaned every day, but, like, I don't clean my house every day when I'm at home. Like, I don't feel like I need my hotel room cleaned every single day. Especially when I'm not in it all day. I'm literally just sleeping in it. So I don't know. I guess I understand, but it's obvious they eliminated this because people were not using it. You know, you don't know too many people that were actually using this, and also probably just to free up some of the resources too. I'm sure they are short on housekeepers because they were short on housekeepers before the pandemic, and now it's even harder for them to get them. So it's I'm sure that's part of the reason why for this. But, you know, you're still getting your trash and towel service the fourth day if you have, you know, 7 nights stay or less. You know, that's still happening. So, you know, and if you're there for more than 8 days, you get, you know, a full cleaning on day 4. So you still, that's all the same still. This was just the extra. So yeah, I don't see this as a big deal. I don't care.
Yeah.
But it's DVC news and we need to talk about it.
Exactly. But again, I guess, you know, this is our point of view on it. Again, keep that in mind. You know, we don't see it as necessary. I'm sure, you know, if you have an alternative point of view on this, or you want to share what your experience is with it, you know, we love to hear that stuff in the comments, because, you know, we can't see or understand everything that, or, you know, other situations that people may be in. But, you know, obviously for us on this show, it's kind of you know, okay, whatever, you know, I never paid for it in the first place, so having it go away is a moot point as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly. Well, I saw somebody said they're taking away a perk, and I'm like, this isn't a perk. A perk is a thing that you get for free. This is an extra service. Like, this isn't a perk to me. This is just an extra service you could pay for if you wanted to. A perk is if it's, you know, included as part of the price, a part of the package, as part of your points, you know? Yeah. Like, that's a perk. This is not a perk. This was just an extra service that they had. So, all right, with that all said, why don't we go ahead and do our ad? So this week we have DVC Rental Store. The DVC Rental Store, a World of DVC company, offers magical vacations at incredible value. Save up to 60% off retail rates at premium Disney resorts. DVC Rental Store now includes deposits as low as 25% at the time of booking and a built-in cancellation policy for every reservation. And as always, DVC Rental Store pays out the most to members looking to rent their points. Want to learn more? Go to dvcrentalstore.com or call 1-855-DVC-RENT. That's 1-855-382-7368. And of course, when you talk to them, let them know that Welcome Home sent you. All right, cool. Oh man, got a whole bunch of 50th anniversary announcements. And Trevor, we were talking about this last week about there being a new fireworks show for the 50th.
Yeah.
We literally we said this last week that this was going to happen.
Well, I mean, it seemed obvious, and
When is there
obviously
going to be something new in fireworks, though?
What do you mean? Like a new kind of firework?
Yeah, like where they shoot it up and it actually looks like a Mickey Mouse.
They can do some stuff, like, because I've seen in for Happily Ever After, they have like hearts show up, and they do like the cool spiral for like Moana.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want a little bit more. We can't do anything more yet. I feel like fireworks are like, is it because nobody cares? Maybe it's just me that cares, but like, I want them to shoot up and like, look like Mickey Mouse. Like that'd be
cool.
awesome.
I mean, Disney, I think they have more patents on fireworks than any other company in the world. I think. I could be wrong about that, but they have a ton of patents on fireworks because they have like that whole thing where they can like detonate them whenever they want to like sync up with the music and stuff like that. They have a lot of cool stuff that they do. Like, I think they shoot their fireworks off with like compressed air and like all sorts of cool things. But this new show that's coming in, Disney Enchantment, I think the big thing with this one is obviously going to be partly the projections, but also that they're going to do the projections on Main Street, which is also pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of like new. The I thought they did that for the Halloween fireworks as well. Or am I mistaken?
I don't think so. I think don't they do it in Disneyland for that Disneyland show?
Yeah,
I don't
maybe
think
that's
they've done
what
it at Disney World though.
Because I remember seeing projections all over Main Street, but yeah, I think that might have been in Disneyland when I saw that.
Yeah, because I think this is new for Disney World, is doing the projection effects down Main Street, which I think could be very cool. I'm excited for that. I think it's going to be neat. And then part of this, too, is also they're talking about fireworks, perimeter fireworks. So this isn't new, Damon, but at least it's fireworks happening all around you, right? That's kind of, I guess, what the idea is here. I guess we're going to have to find out what it's going to be, but...
Yeah, I'll look forward to it. And I guess nothing has been said about... after this is done, this is specifically for the 50th. Looking back at, how other milestone celebrations have gone is, they have a show for a year and then they go back to the regularly scheduled show. So,
yeah,
at this point, I would like to believe that shows like Happily Ever After are going to stay intact after this is done.
Yeah,
it's just, you're going to have a good year and a half of this Disney Enchantment show. So I'll withhold my judgment until I see it, whether or not it's better than Happily Ever After. I'm sure it'll be a great show.
We don't know a lot about it yet, right? Like we just saw one piece of concept art basically.
Yeah, and it looked like a lot of gold. So
yeah, there's a lot of gold. Like it looks like the castle's turning gold, and then Main Street is turning gold. I think the big piece of this is, and this has been kind of rumored for years now, is that they were going to do projections on Main Street USA. Now maybe once the this is over after 18 months, maybe when Happily Ever After comes back, they add in the Main Street USA component to that show. Like they add to it, since they'll have those projectors set up, might as well, right?
Yeah. Or like my thinking was, again, for the seasonal stuff, you'll see for Halloween and Christmas and whatnot, that you'll get a lot of those projections being added in as well.
Yeah. Listen, I've gone on the record here before. I'm a big fan of the projections. I'm amazed every time I watch a show on the castle where they're able to transform the castle into different things and it looks real. It just looks so real in real time. And I mean, they actually do it too with the Star Wars show that they do at Hollywood Studios. The things that they do in the theater come out really cool too. And just, I'm always amazed by that projection mapping and how real it looks, and how I feel like just it enhances the show so much, and adding in the fireworks and the lighting effects and all that stuff. I love that stuff, and I'm excited to see the show. I'm excited to see what it's going to look like. So,
yeah, for sure. And we've already talked about Harmonious before, so yes. We know that Harmonious is coming at the same time. The third show, though, that I was a little surprised about was the Animal Kingdom show.
Yeah.
Which is not a nighttime show. It's actually a daytime show. And it looks like it's in where Rivers of Light was.
It's in the former Rivers of Light Theater. Yeah.
And it looks as though, I think or reading up on it, it looks like the kites from Epcot Forever are going to be repurposed over there, or that they're going to be using, at the very least, technology. The boats and the same concept, but it's going to be kites specific to Animal Kingdom and all that. So yeah, kind of interesting that, I think it's good for the Animal Kingdom one. I think it's good that they're doing a daytime show, because I know people have complained, or it's not that people complain, but people go, well, the other three parks have a fireworks show. Why doesn't Animal Kingdom? Well, because Animal Kingdom is a functioning zoo, and they're inviting problems if there's fireworks going off over these animals every night. Like, yeah,
it can scare the animals, and that's they have to be careful about that. So, and until Disney figures out how to way to create fireworks that don't make tremendously loud sounds, then there you go, Damon. There's your innovation in fireworks, is fireworks that don't sound like explosions. I don't know if that's possible. I doubt it, but
yeah, it's I don't know how much you could incorporate a silencer into fireworks.
Yeah, I don't know if you could either, especially since I think they use gunpowder for the it's
yeah. What I could see happening though is potentially, as I've seen some drone shows getting better and better, I could see them doing possibly a drone show at some point.
I like this kite idea though, because it's simple. It's nothing like fancy. It's just kind of be like, I almost consider it like the Streetmosphere thing. It's not going to be like something that you need to like go and see, but like, especially that Rivers of Light theater, you can see it without being in there, right? So like you could just be walking by and just be like, oh, look at that. That looks cool. I don't think it needs to be a thing that, you need to make an appointment and go see. You're like, oh, I got to go see this kite thing. I think it's just an extra thing that's going to be going on. I don't think it needs to be more than that.
Well, but if they're paying for people to run it, I can see why they would try it. They want to make sure that it's not just people, walking by and looking at it for a second and then going, oh yeah, that's cool. Like, yeah, I see your point, but I disagree that, it should be something that people sit down and pay attention to.
Sure. No, I get that. I'm just saying, like, I'm not, it doesn't feel like the type of thing that you're going to like, that I feel like I need to go to,
Right.
Maybe I'll look at it from the outside and then go like, but it's not like Phantasmic where you're going to line up in the theater an hour ahead of time. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of what I'm saying. But
I'll see it on my way over to go ride Everest.
There you go. Yeah. So I think it's interesting. So this was interesting too. So they're going to have 50, it says Disney Fab 50, so they're going to have the Disney Fab 50 of golden character statues are going to be placed around the parks.
These are cool.
You like these, Damon?
Yeah, I do. I like them a lot. So I don't know what they mean by surprising ways to interact with these sculptures. Unless they start walking around, I don't think there'll be anything surprising about it. But I think it will be cool.
This is definitely a special thing, yeah.
Yeah, I like the gold. Like, I think it looks nice. It looks classy. I think it will be good. Hopefully that they do their interactive portion of it is cool. Hopefully it's something that's part of a game or a collection or something. You know what I mean?
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Hopefully it's something like that.
So
yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Trevor.
Looking at the concept art, there's a little circular logo or plaque in front of the statues. That to me screams, them having a touch point or something there, like you said, as part of a game or part of a,
something phone wise, Bluetooth or something.
Yeah, like a Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom kind of thing.
Yeah, like maybe it will be some what's that called again? VR, the one that's not
the augmented reality.
Augmented reality. Yeah.
I'm thinking maybe just like a scavenger hunt kind of thing where you got to go find them.
You know what it's going to be? It's going to be a friggin' photo pass thing. You take a picture and it's augmented reality on your phone. Hopefully it's more than that though.
Yeah.
Come on, wow me with something. It's the 50th. I want him to start walking around at night Westworld style. Like that. I don't count with that.
Well, they did build that Baby Groot animatronic that walks around, so I guess they could do it theoretically.
Could you imagine? Like, that would be mind-blowing.
Yeah. That would freak people out though too. Then we're talking about Itchy and Scratchy World from The Simpsons. Yeah. But these are cool, and there's going to be 50 of them, of course. And so I'm going to be interested to see what characters. Obviously, they're going to have the obvious characters, but
I hope that they have some sort of gold leafed collectible as well. That would be kind of neat.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, we haven't really gotten a look at what like the merch is going to look like for this yet, right?
That'd be kind of cool though.
Yeah. This was unexpected announcement, I think. Go ahead, Trevor.
Yeah, getting a small version of one of these statues, like if you have a favorite character, being able to get a statue, that would definitely be cool and something that I would look into as a 50th merch.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Are you guys like hoping they do like some? I mean, there's going to be 50 of them, right? So there's going to be some characters that are a little more rare, right?
Yeah. I mean, let's hope for some Gravity Falls. I would think we'll see just some sort of DuckTales, but I mean, Gravity Falls, Amphibia. Oh my goodness, they do an Amphibia statue.
Yeah, it's like this is the problem is that we know what the popular ones are in our head or what we feel are the popular ones, but do they make the top 50?
Yeah, 50 seems like a lot until you start cruising through. And as somebody, do most people want to see Clarabelle over, let's say, Anne from Amphibia? Probably. I mean,
Clarabelle, Figaro, horse collar. Like, I mean, that's just staying within the Mickey Mouse realm.
Exactly.
And then you get over to Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, Winnie the Pooh.
And then the princess.
You got Avatar, right? Because I mean, they're going to represent Avatar some way, somehow. We know
that. Think so?
You almost have to. You have a ride for it. How do you not represent the rides at least?
Yeah.
Because if you don't represent it, then you're saying, why do we have this world? Which I would agree with. Why do we have that world? But
but I feel Avatar's in the same place that Star Wars was before Disney bought Star Wars.
You don't think that there's going to be a Star Wars sculpture?
But because it's all there Magic Kingdom, now, right? These are all Magic Kingdom, so I'm going to say no.
But I thought they were spread throughout all the parks.
It says parks.
Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe not then. Oh, debut throughout the theme parks. Okay, so you're right. So it's not just Magic Kingdom.
So the way that I look at Star Wars right now is, it's bought by Disney and it's definitely a Disney IP. But, back in the 90s, George Lucas was partnered with Disney and they did Star Tours and all that.
Back when they made good video games.
Yeah.
But you don't want a gold R2-D2 floating around somewhere? I mean,
it's going to happen. You're kidding yourself if you don't think Star Wars characters are going to make a top 50 sculptures.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm talking about Avatar. I don't think that Avatar is at that level. I think that James Cameron IPs are not at that level in Disney.
Sure, but then why did they build the park, right? Like, they built the park because...
The same reason they built Star Tours before they owned Star Wars.
It was popular. It was a popular IP.
But I think if you didn't have Star Wars Land and you just still had Star Tours and George Lucas owned it and they were going to put 50 characters in the parks, you're still going to get Star Wars.
Oh, I definitely think Star Wars. I just don't know about Avatar.
I think we'll see it.
I'm hoping for some Muppets. That's what I want. I want some Muppets.
Yeah. So what would you buy? Like, so let's just say your favorite shows, let's just say my favorite shows are out of the mix. I'm going to say there's no Gravity Falls, there's no DuckTales, and there's no Amphibia. Let's just say that. What character would I buy? And I might be on that Muppet bandwagon.
Figment. There's going to be a Figment. There's got to be a Figment.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Do I buy a Figment over Muppets, though? Oof.
Tough.
Yeah.
There's got to be a Figment, though. There's no way they don't do Figment.
Well, what if there's a Figment and a DuckTales? Which way do I go?
It's tough.
That is tough.
See, yeah, that's where it has to... It's a weird, like, this is the same problem I have. I had a bit of an obsession with mugs for a little while. Like, I've got more mugs than I should probably own at this point, but I think a lot of people collect Disney mugs. And it was like walking through the stores and looking at them. It was like, I had to find that one that I was like, yeah, that's cool. It's not about, just picking, oh, well, I like this IP over this IP. It's like, in the moment, it has to click with me as I'm standing.
But I think that mugs have a design about them. These are just going to be singular characters.
Yeah, that's true. But it's also like, looking at particular characters and I guess, if there was a character that I didn't think that I would want or that, yeah, I don't know. It's.
Yeah, like I don't need a Pete mug.
No.
Pete's going to be one of the characters, right? He's got to be.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe.
Most likely he's been around as long as Mickey Mouse, so.
Well, like you said, Damon, it feels like 50's a lot, right? But if you go with the Fab Five to start off with, right? And then you go all the Disney princesses, right? All the Disney princesses are going to have one. You have to think.
And then you're talking villains.
The most popular villains, yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
It's gonna be hard.
Will there be any villains? I don't think so.
You think
I'm going to
they're
say
all
no.
heroes?
So
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. A 50 list is too difficult for me to even make. I mean, because, right, do you take something like, I mean, is there going to be a Toy Story one?
I would think there'd be at least a Woody and Buzz, I would think.
Oh, so there's two? I mean, right?
But then that opens up the whole Pixar floodgate.
Yeah. Do they throw a Stitch in there somewhere? Because,
Yeah,
Stitch would be a character I'd be down for getting.
Yeah,
too.
Stitch would be one I would. I mean, for my son and my family, Stitch would definitely be high up on that list.
Because I look at something like DuckTales or Amphibia and even Gravity Falls. The problem is it's there and gone, right? Well, we're still getting these crappy new cartoon versions of Chip and Dale, right? So like, we're going to get a Chip and Dale. There's no doubt about that, right? Because they're continuing that IP. Where I think IPs that are done, I just don't know if we get them. So, or that will be done. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do we get stuff that's parks only? Because like I mean, there's got to be Figment, but I mean, are we going to get like a Hitchhiking Ghost one, or are we going to get
50? It should be 500 at this point, right? Like,
right. That's what I'm saying. There's so many characters, right? It's tough.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm excited to see these though, and I'm excited to see what
So we've talked about show IP stuff, so like Mickey and whatnot. But then like you said, if you're talking about park IPs, there's there's Tiki Room stuff, there's Pirates, there's Haunted Mansion,
man.
Like gosh,
it's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, they could even go old school with like some of the older stuff that's not around anymore. Like, what was the what was the robot in the original Star Tours? Why am I blanking on his name?
Oh, Max.
No, the one that he's in the bar now.
You're talking about,
in the cantina now, and I can't remember his name. But I mean, like they could go old school with some of that stuff too, and like I just don't know. It's gotta be hard.
We're talking like they're actually selling something. We don't even know, but that would be great.
Oh,
we know sell something.
There's going to be something sold. We know there is.
We just don't know what it's going to be.
Oh, I'm sure that there's a
minifigures, but you think that there'll be like what are the Disney figures? That starts with the TSU. What are those things again?
Oh, Sums?
Yeah. I mean, do they just make those? Like, what? I mean, I hope that they make something of a classy type of gold statue rather than something like that.
Almost looks like an Oscar. Like, is that what you're... Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
Like a little mini trophy like that you get?
Yeah, but not plastic, like full out metal. Like, let me get a cool version of that.
It'd be interesting. We'll have to see what they come up with. I'm sure there was... I can imagine that there were probably some pretty intense discussions on what 50 that they're going to choose. There's probably a lot of work that went into that. So obviously it's not going to be an equal amount of sculptures in each park either. So,
and guaranteed, even just the three of us talking here, there's going to be something missed that we're all going to, whatever 50 they pick, no one's going to be happy with it.
Absolutely not. I agree.
Yeah. 100%. I do think it's interesting that they are they're doing a new cavalcade too.
Oh yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
But does that mean that there's no? Yeah, does that mean there's going to be no parades?
Yeah, no 3 o'clock parade. Yeah.
But a lot of people have said that they like these better.
They're great. It was great, Damon. It was so good because like they're random and like you don't know that they're coming, and they're just.
Until somebody makes an app for that.
Well, yeah, but I think they do them at different times though. And like it's kind of, you're talking about making things more magical. When something just happens, it's kind of cool. It feels like almost like a flash mob, all of a sudden out of nowhere, there's a parade happening. You're like, oh, I didn't even know that was happening. This is cool. And yeah, you're right though. Like people have really liked the cavalcade. So I'm surprised they're keeping them and doing a new one.
Yeah, but that's one of these things, and we talked about this a long time ago, that things are going to change after the pandemic stuff quiets down, and that you may not see certain things come back, or things may stay a certain way because they realize that it's better. And yeah, to your point, I think it's definitely nicer when you're talking about magic and all that is the spontaneity of it. Magic isn't supposed to happen on a schedule, and you're not, when you spend an hour waiting for a 20-minute parade that, you kind of build it up in your head that, this better be worth it. And then when it happens, you almost let yourself down, right? Versus if you're going about your day and all of a sudden, like you said, hey, these characters show up or this thing goes by and you didn't expect it, that feels, I think Disney's realizing that there's a psychological aspect to doing these things and not just, scheduling them for the sake of appeasing people, is that, you have to also factor in, for people to enjoy themselves, you have to make that little bit of randomness.
Well, and not only that, right now, well, not right now, but pre-pandemic, like it was the 3:00 parade was the 3:00 parade, right? Like it just happened once a day. We knew when it was going to happen. Everyone would show up at that time and then it's done. It kind of like interrupted your whole day. Whereas these, they kind of happen randomly throughout the day and there's a bunch of them, right? It's not just one time. It's like 3 or 4 times. So like you can catch these anytime. You don't have to interrupt your whole day. It's just kind of like again, the streetmosphere stuff, right? It's happening in the background and you're just like, oh, cool. Look at this. Hey, look, there's Mickey. Okay, cool. Like, you know what I mean? There's something oddly magical about the spontaneity of it. And I really enjoyed that when I was there, but I've seen so many people in the different groups on Facebook talking about how much they love the cavalcade. So it seems like Disney's listened to that and that's what they're doing. So I think those were all the 50th updates. I'm sure there's going to be more announcements coming over the next month or two.
Yeah, Harmonious. So you had the contemporary re-theme in here.
Well, we can talk Harmonious really quickly though too about how I
didn't know what we need to talk
debuting.
about on this. Like,
well, I just think it's interesting. They've confirmed now it's debuting on October 1st, the same time as all the other stuff, which is interesting. I mean, it's probably smart because it's going to spread the crowds out a little bit, right? You're going to have to choose, and it's got to be tough for people like Damon though, who want to be the first day on everything. You can't be the first day on both of these.
Well, I don't want to be the first day on any shows because shows are stupid and a waste of time.
That's fair. I know, but you usually want to be like first day on stuff. You can't be first day for both these new shows. So
I want to be no days on both those new shows.
Fair enough.
For someone that's trying to see them both they have to pick one for the first. And I mean, I still think that Magic Kingdom will trump Epcot for this kind of stuff anyway.
I don't know though. I feel like Harmonious has been like pumped up for so long now though that like a lot of people really want to see it, And like the picture that they showed looks pretty cool,
Only because we've been, hearing about it for the last 3 years now.
Yeah, they've been working at it for so long.
Yeah, and
people have seen those barges sitting in the ever since they put them there, people have seen those barges sitting in there. So they just want to see what it's going to be. I mean, the Stargate. Yeah, this picture that they showed of a preview looks really cool. But again, it's just one picture, right? You need to see the whole show to really. But I mean, it looks like there's a lot going on in this show.
Yeah. Which I guess this must have been done during testing. It looks like.
Yeah.
So
yeah, picture during testing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, no, that's all I wanted to mention with that. But we can go to the contemporary re-theme because I was a little surprised by this. I'm not gonna lie.
Really?
I wasn't surprised that it was happening. I was surprised at how much I liked it.
Okay. Which I think the one thing that people are focused on in this, or a lot of the comments that I've seen, is everyone going, "Oh, it's nice how subtle they did the Incredibles stuff in it," which is fair, but a lot of people are overlooking how well they integrated the monorail theme into it.
That's my favorite part of it, I think.
Yeah, it really gives off a cool vibe. The monorail has been a big part. It's the train that goes right through the middle of the hotel, and it's been a thing for it's been a part of the contemporary longer than any other IP or anything like that. And I think it's really cool that they worked it into the rooms in such a way. But yeah, the only thing that annoyed me was how much people are focused on the Incredibles accents, which, don't get me wrong, they're very cool, and I like how they did it, but that's almost overshadowing what the room design actually is.
Well, and I struggled at first when I'd heard about this to be like, okay, how do you fit the Incredibles into contemporary? But then when you think about the Incredibles as a movie, like the aesthetic they have going on there is kind of perfect for the contemporary. Yeah. It's almost like this, like, I don't, and I probably
60s retro futurism.
but also kind of modern. Yeah, like it's like, yeah, you're right. 60s futurism. Yeah, that's kind of what it is. And the contemporary is kind of that, right? And this kind of like the things that they did in here were pretty cool. And I mean, I don't think it's that subtle. I mean, there's a lot of like pretty overt stuff, but a lot of it is pretty subtle and just kind of the design notes. Like you said, the monorail aesthetic that I think they even said that in their in their announcement. But it's cool. I really liked it. I was not. Oh yeah, these rooms will blend a sleek monorail motif with some of your favorite characters from The Incredibles. So it works. It just looks cool, and I'm glad they have been doing a really good job with these. You know, I think we talked about maybe on the last episode, or I think it was the last episode, where I wasn't a fan of them throwing IP into everything. But if they do it the right way, it works, right? And the way they did it at Poly, you know, with the Moana stuff, and the way they're doing it here, I think they're doing it the right way, where they're doing touches that make sense within the theme of the already existing resort.
Yeah. And that's what people should be asking for. Like, I think the problem is when people hear that they're retheming a resort, is that everyone looks at the value resorts. You know, you look at Art of Animation, you look at the All Stars resorts, and those are like hit you over the head.
Yeah.
Hey, you're in Disney. You know, everything's brightly colored. Everything is cartoonish to a flaw, right? Like. And I get why they're doing it, because it appeals to the kids. It hypes up. It hypes up people's kids enough that they say we want to stay there, and gets, you know, people to come and stay at Disney. But for the other resorts, you know, going towards moderate and deluxe resorts, it shouldn't be hit you over the head, but it should still remind you that you're at Disney, which I think they did a perfect job here. Is that, you know, if they took out all the Incredibles accents, the room still functions. Or, you know, you could replace all those things with another IP, and the room still looks just as good, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a fine line to walk too, right? Between, like you said, between hitting you over the head with the IP and then doing subtle nods to it, right? But I mean, there are some things in here, like they have like the super suits in the closet and some stuff in the drawers and stuff like that. But I still don't feel like it's hitting you over the head. I feel like it still looks really cool and really classy. So
yeah, and
they also go ahead. Sorry,
I was gonna say those are easy things. You know, at some point they can decide to shift gears on it, and they could actually take out all the Incredibles stuff if they wanted to. And those things are very like they're actually superficial at the end of the day. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not actual like design choices that if you rip them out, it destroys the room, right? That's
yeah. Like they didn't make the shape of the door of Elastigirl. You know, like they can. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. They can redecorate those any way they want. So yeah, I think it's cool. I liked it a lot more than I thought. I also saw too that the Wave is going to be closing for refurbishment. They're going to retheme it, but they haven't said to what. A lot of people have been speculating for years now that it was going to be an Incredible Steakhouse. So I don't know if because they're now revealing that these rooms are going to be the Incredibles themed room, if we think the Wave is going to be Incredibles themed, I don't know. It would make sense, I guess.
So one of the rumors I heard was them calling it Steakhouse 71.
I did see that too.
And I find that interesting because 71 being the year that Disney opened, or Disney World opened.
Disney World opened, yeah.
That, you know, maybe they're kind of going back to looking at how Disney was back then and playing off of that, you know, making an updated version of that retro Disney, so to speak.
Yeah, that's the, I don't know why I didn't put that rumor on here, but, cause that is one that's been coming up, is that it's going to be Steakhouse 71. But you know, it'll be interesting to see what that actually ends up being. Cause I mean, it would kind of be weird if they didn't, if they didn't do it to Incredibles when they're doing the guest rooms with Incredibles, you know?
Well, but that's like saying that, you know, at every other resort. So what's a good, okay, I got a good example. So Storybook dining at Wilderness Lodge is based on Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Does that mean that all the rooms in Wilderness Lodge have to be Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs?
That's fair. That's fair. You're right. And this rumor that I'm reading, Steakhouse 71 will reportedly take cues from Steakhouse 55 concept at Disneyland Hotel, and the restaurant will be decked out with historical photos of not only construction of the contemporary, but also early construction of Walt Disney World. The theme will be heavy in nostalgia and sit in contrast with The Incredibles. So that's interesting. Yeah. That's from Blog Mickey. We'll give them credit for this rumor, and also, if it's wrong, you can blame them. But you know what? I find it interesting they wouldn't announce what it is at the same time, unless like the concept is not done, but they're like already starting work on it, and they're saying it's going to be done by October 1st. So, I mean, it's not even closing until mid-July. They can't be doing that much to it.
But I think Disney also likes keeping a certain amount of mystique around these things too. They don't want to, there's certain things that they throw out ahead of time that they want to get people hyped up for, but they also know there's enough other stuff going on right now that if they, and like you've already got the contemporary redesigns, you've got all the stuff announced for the 50th. If they threw that in at the same time that all this other stuff was being announced, it would be forgotten. People would completely forget, oh yeah, they've redone the wave. Like you're not thinking about that. But, I think Disney is smart with the way that they do these announcements and how they plan them, that they want everything to kind of have its own spotlight at the right time. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure there's somebody on the back end from a social media standpoint planning all this stuff out. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a whiteboard somewhere where it's like, we're going to announce this thing on this day. We're going to announce this thing on this day. Yeah. Like
they're very careful about that. They're very strategic and very calculated with when they announce things,
Yeah.
I saw one website complaining about when they did when the first commercial came out, they were complaining about, that Disney wasn't doing anything for the 50th. Like they were just doing like a couple things. They were just redecorating stuff. And it's like, can we chill like for 5 seconds? Like, like they're going to announce stuff. Just give it a second. It's not till October. There's lots of time to announce things. Disney always does this where they slowly announce things. They are very calculated about this stuff. Mm-hmm. And like you said, they release things when they want to release them.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and it's, I guess for people that, we've been, like I said, I think a lot of us have been through these big milestone things. For me, it's been pretty fresh in my head because I went to the 60th for Disneyland, and that was a pretty big thing. And I remember leading up to it, there was all kinds of information coming out about it. And then when we were there, it was very clear that Disney was very good at hyping it up. And they, as much as we want to go and just do the normal stuff that we do when we go to Disneyland, they were very good at almost redirecting our attention to, hey, there is this 60th celebration going on. Make sure that you do something to celebrate that. Like that's where all these announcements and everything come from, is that they don't want it to just be, hey, we're celebrating a milestone, and people kind of show up and go, I'll be over here, riding this ride or doing whatever. They want to draw people into it. And so that's where this whole plan comes in.
And there's some stuff that might not even start on October 1st. They might do stuff throughout the year. Yeah, and because you got to keep people's interest in it. You're going to have it for 18 months. You're not just going to have the same offerings for 18 months. There's going to be things that come along with that,
Yeah, there's going to be different merchandise as it goes along. There's going to be, different shows events and stuff. Yeah. And I remember that too, because we went, so the 60th was about a year and a half, and we went, we went February both times, or February, March. But like the first time we went was at the start of the 60th, and then the second time was towards the end. And it was, it was very different. Or like you could see that they were kind of focusing on different things, and as they get towards the end of it, obviously things wind down and the hype kind of fades out, but they were still doing things to try and draw people into it, or to make sure that they knew that it was still going on.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's what I think is interesting, because it's like, okay, not all this stuff is not going to just be for October 1st. Like it's going to change. I even remember, gosh, this was a couple of years ago now. They did like a Summer of Magic thing where, remember, they kept they had we talked about it on the show. Maybe I'll go look back at it, but there was like a summer where they had like it was like 100 new events or foods or, picture spots or different things. And I remember this, but I don't remember what it was. I'm sure somebody out there will. But I remember talking about it on the show. But that's the kind of stuff they're going to do. They're going to do all these different experiences. There's going to be different things happening. It's an 18-month celebration. They can't just have the same thing for 18 months.
Yeah.
Disney's always changing, always offering new things. And listen, they'll have the big stuff will stay the same, right? Like the show's going to stay the same. Like the nighttime show is going to stay the same. But a lot of the other stuff can change, and it probably will change. So.
Yeah. So
I'm sure there'll be different food items throughout the year and all that stuff. So
for all the people complaining that they just painted the castle, slow your roll.
Just calm down. Patience, everyone. Patience.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Though I didn't see any like people complaining about it. I just saw one particular website was whining about it, and I'm just like, come on, just calm down. So
it's very easy to gloss over things at the surface and to say one thing when you don't actually look at all the facts.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. All right, so we got one last thing on here.
Yeah.
And it's too bad Damon had to leave us, unfortunately, because I kind of put this on here for him, but
but no,
it's of interest.
Yeah, I'm interested in this. So what it is Scarlett Johansson is to produce and star in Disney's Tower of Terror movies. So this looks to be a reimagining of not the same as the Steven Guttenberg and Kirsten Dunst show from 1997. Like obviously they'll do a different take on it, but obviously it's still going to be Tower of Terror themed, and we'll have to see how that plays out.
Yeah, and according to the internet, so take this with a grain of salt. Disney hasn't announced this yet. So Josh Cooley, the director of Toy Story 4 and writer for Inside Out, is writing the screenplay. So that's pretty interesting. And then it'd be interesting to see what this movie would be about. Like, how are they going to do this? Are they going to have it like be about a real hotel that's haunted, or like what are they going to do? Well,
I mean, if it's Tower of Terror, it should follow the Hollywood Tower Hotel, and like I said, that's why I'm expecting it to be a reimagining of the 1997 movie, because there was the whole mystery there. Basically the story of Tower of Terror. These people disappeared. Why did they disappear? How, is there a way to possibly get them back? All that kind of stuff, right? So, it's...
Go ahead, sorry.
It's interesting. The thing that's interesting here is, Disney has obviously over the years moved away from, just doing, family specific things. Some of the newer shows that have come out, like the Marvel Universe stuff, has been a little more, I don't want to say adult targeted.
No, but it is though.
Yeah.
I mean, like even just by the fact, like if you watch Loki, if you watch any of that stuff, there's cursing in it. There's stuff.
Yeah.
There's some of that going on. Especially like a Modoc's. But that was made for. I think that was completely made more for adults than kids. But there's a lot of that kind of stuff that they're making. Yeah.
That's the thing about the Twilight Zone is that the Twilight Zone was never made for kids. The ride and the show were never targeted at kids. So, but when they
don't own Twilight Zone, right? They just licensed that. So I feel like they're not going to be making a movie that involves the Twilight Zone at all. I'm thinking like they're going to separate that out.
So do you think that this is their way of finding that way to break the Twilight Zone?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Because Trevor, I think they have been trying to move away from like licensing stuff because they own so much stuff now. It's like, why should we pay another company for stuff when we own it, right? Like, and so they have to pay whoever owns Twilight Zone. I don't know who owns it, but whoever owns it, they got to pay them to use that name and the likenesses and all that fun stuff. So, that's a good point. Is this a prequel to them redoing that ride without the Twilight Zone tie-in?
I'm looking at who owns the Twilight Zone now.
I feel like it's going to be like CBS or something. It's going to be like CBS Viacom. Just a guess.
Cayuga Productions, Inc.
All right.
I have no idea. It's an American anthology television series created. So no, that's the description of the Twilight Zone.
CBS, I'm right.
Oh, okay, yeah, CBS, yeah.
Yeah, so it looks like CBS owns the rights to that. So, and not that they have. I mean, they don't have like parks to put stuff into, right? So, like, I mean, I'm sure they don't care that much about that. I mean, it is a valuable property, though, right? So,
yeah, but it's also a remnant of, again, we've talked about this with Hollywood studios before, finding its identity, right? That for a long time it was MGM and a lot of those outside IPs, and really when you look at it now, most of Hollywood studios is either now Star Wars, Toy Story, Mickey Mouse. Indiana Jones gets a pass because it was it was brought in kind of the same as Star Wars, but then you have Tower of Terror and you have Rock and Roller Coaster, which this could be the sign or the harbinger of both of these rides getting a retheme in the future, which, I think it's, if this show leads into the Tower of Terror being redone, as long as it still maintains being the Tower of Terror and doesn't just turn into another Guardians of the Galaxy ride. Like, don't get me wrong. I think what they did with Guardians of the Galaxy was cool for the retheme of Tower of Terror in Disneyland.
Yeah.
But, I think the original Tower of Terror needs to stay there. Like, I think that if they rethemed it, they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot. But this gives them the ability to keep it still as kind of the, they can tell a story of the Tower of Terror, but then remove the Twilight Zone from it and just turn it into specifically the Tower of Terror story.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering, if they can just remove, like, if I'm sure they can find a way to not have the Twilight Zone piece in there, Yeah. Like, I think they could figure that out. Because I don't think that's, like, valuable to, like, a 15-year-old. Like, a 15-year-old doesn't know what Twilight Zone is. Like, that's not, I mean, probably most 20-somethings don't know Twilight Zone, right? I mean, you're talking about a very old show at this point. So, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, you've got me looking up all this stuff now around is, like,
I'm not gonna lie, I'm on the Wikipedia for the Twilight Zone right now.
Yeah, like how Tower Terror movie. So
now, it is interesting because I think it's Paramount, right? I think Paramount has some amusement parks, don't they?
So the interesting thing is the show that was made back in 1997 was just called Disney's Tower of Terror. It does not mention the Twilight Zone at all.
Yeah.
So I think Disney is trying to set a precedent there for themselves that they can, take that story and they probably have to tell a different enough version of it from what is currently in the Tower of Terror that, they don't basically get sued by CBS for saying, hey, you just, took our story and just removed Twilight Zone from it and are retelling the same story.
Yeah.
So I didn't think so too much of this movie announcement to begin with, but now that we're talking about it, I do really have to wonder if this is how Disney is trying to reposition themselves so they can get out of sponsorship, as you said.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily the reason why they're doing it. I think they're going to do it, and then this is going to be like I don't want to say a happy side effect from it, or if that's what they're trying to do. Like, I don't know how much it costs them to use that. I mean, it might not cost them anything. I mean, it might be a small amount, but considering how valuable the Twilight Zone is as a name, right? I don't know.
I think it's more about, over the years, Disney has done this where they've had a lot of rides sponsored by different people.
Yeah.
And as time's gone on, they've gotten to a point where they don't need to have the rides sponsored anymore. They can pay for it themselves through their own IP and whatnot. And I get the feeling that this show may have been spawned as somebody in the background said, we need to get rid of, not get rid of Twilight Zone, but that they were probably like, okay, we've held on to this long enough. It's time to look at it. And it probably started as, okay, how do we get rid of this? And it got far enough down, and then they went, hey, we should make a movie to make sure we establish this as its own IP.
Yeah. It's possible. I mean, listen, we're completely speculating here. It's just, we're completely speculating. I mean, we don't really know that this is the case. I mean, it could just be that they are using every IP that they have available to them, or every recognizable thing that they have, to make, more content, because we're living in a time now where more content the better, right? Disney needs as much content as they can for Disney Plus and for theaters, and so they're doing everything they can here. So it's possible that it's just that, and they're not trying to get rid of that theming. But I mean, I don't know. It should be interesting.
Yeah, I think it's, like you said, that they're trying to find, or they're trying to make content, but it's also a way, similar to what they did with Pirates. They made a movie based on Pirates because they knew that they had this ride sitting there, and they were like, hey, how can we, one, refresh the ride, and two, do it in a way that isn't just the ride. If they just upgraded the ride and said, we've got new characters in the ride, people would be like, oh, cool. And that would be the end of it. But, tying it into a movie franchise and all that kind of stuff brought it to a next level. Right. Yeah. And I think this is the same thing they're trying to do with Tower of Terror, is that they're looking at going, okay, we have this ride here. It does well enough, it's still definitely popular, but, how can we, bring it back around? Now that Star Wars Land is done and everything, it's like, this is their way of refreshing the park, and not just saying, hey, we put a new coat of paint on Tower of Terror. It's, we've done a bunch, or sorry, it should be a new coat of dust. It's not paint, but whatever.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Right. But yeah, so here's, a new movie. Here is, a bunch of hype around it. Right. And then the next question is how do they do that with Rock and Roller Coaster?
Yeah. Well, I tend to believe that at some point they're gonna redo Rock and Roller Coaster, because again, they need to keep things fresh, right? So, Does Aerosmith really resonate with today's youth? No, right? So I don't know, but it's interesting though, because I think you pointed this out earlier when they made the Steve Guttenberg one back in the 90s, that it was based on the Tower of Terror and didn't involve the Twilight Zone at all, right? So it could just be like we said, they could just be that they just want to, first of all, they don't have the rights to Twilight Zone, right? So they can't even include that. And second of all, maybe they do want to separate themselves. I don't know.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised, now that we've been talking about it, that, this show is going to start coming into production, and then you'll probably see a closure of Tower of Terror, because they'll want to incorporate it, even if it's not a full reimagining of the ride. Maybe they can't do that, or they don't want to do that. Yeah. But I wouldn't be surprised if, at the very least, the pre-show changes, right? Yeah. That, I mean, I hope that they don't completely redo the room, because it was really cool seeing all the little artifacts from Twilight Zone. But like you said, most, I could point out stuff to my son and he would be like, I don't know what you're talking about, because he's never watched Twilight Zone. Right.
Exactly. So, it's not a property that's relevant to anybody that's under 35. Even then, that's probably, I would bet there's a lot of 40-year-olds that don't know Twilight Zone that well, because I mean it's just not it's been gone for a long time. I mean,
well, and even when I was a kid, it was on, but it was still kind of a niche show at that point. It's I remember watching that and The Outer Limits, because they were both kind of in the same vein, right? And a lot of people that I knew didn't watch those shows. They didn't have any interest in that kind of storytelling. Go ahead. Sorry. I was gonna say it's like Alfred Hitchcock, right? Yeah.
We're talking this is a show from the 60s. It's from the 60s.
It is, yeah. But even growing up, I guess it's not fair to say, if you're past a certain age, you wouldn't understand these shows, because, I realized that, a lot of the shows that I grew up watching, and it is just I think maybe a symptom of, growing up in the 80s and 90s, is that, I was aware of shows like MASH and WKRP in Cincinnati and those shows that came out in the 70s, that were technically before my time, but I was aware of them because, they were on TV, and even though it was reruns, I was still watching it. And it's kind of the same thing now as, you can, we introduce our kids to stuff that, we watched as kids or that, we were interested in. But, some of these things just don't, as things change, they just don't stick anymore. People don't resonate with it. Like I honestly, I enjoyed watching Twilight Zone and stuff like that, but I don't have any desire to go back and rewatch a lot of it. So,
well, and if you remove Twilight Zone from that ride, right? Like, are you going to lose a single person from going on it? Probably not. Like if they did it the right way, right? If they make it so it's still, like it's still going to be a ride that people are going to want to go on, right? Like I don't think people go on that ride for the Twilight Zone aspect of it, right?
Well, the most impressive thing for me is the way that the window shatters and how the door opens. Like it's the effects. It's not so much the ghosts and all that kind of stuff. It's the effects in the ride are, it's cool how they design that.
Yeah, but that's not. Yeah. Like they can do that without the Twilight Zone.
Exactly.
Right? I mean,
that's my point is that, it's not the storytelling doesn't actually affect that.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. We need to get going here. We're at an hour. We're really far in here. We need to go. So let's go ahead and wrap up. We talked a lot about this.
Yeah. More than I thought we would, which,
Me too.
Yeah. A good surprise. Okay. So as usual, if you guys want to reach us, you can always find us at welcomehomepodcast@gmail.com. We get a lot of great listener questions in there. Great comments, and you guys share your stories too. I really think it's great that we have a good community of people that we're talking about our experiences, but you guys share your experiences, which I think makes us better at doing the show because it gives us a different point of view. So make sure you guys keep doing that. And as usual, if you guys want to follow us on Facebook, you can find us as Welcome Home Podcast. Our YouTube channel is also Welcome Home Podcast, and our Instagram is Welcome Home Pics. As a reminder, if you haven't joined the Facebook group yet, I highly recommend doing so. A lot of our listener questions come from there as well. So we do post a thread in there every week where people post listener questions that you hear at the beginning of the show. But there's also a lot of good community in there and a lot of good discussions that come up even outside of the questions that we pose. You guys get very involved in the group. Those of you that are in there and know what's up. And I think it's a great thing. I think it's a great community, and I hope to see more of it because we're probably one of the better Disney groups out there. There, I said it.
Yeah. And I will tell everybody too, this will be a tease for you. We were talking earlier before we started the show today. We were talking about doing a meetup next year of some kind. It's something we've been wanting to do. Obviously, we had one scheduled for 2020 that didn't work out. So, so we were going to do a meetup, but that didn't work out. So we are talking about doing one for next year. We don't know when yet, but we will give everybody a lot of notice on that. But I know because of the community that we have that we'll see a lot of you there, and that will be great. And we're really looking forward to doing that at some point. We'll let you know when we have a date on that. But
yeah, so stay tuned. We are thinking about it. It's just honestly the biggest challenge is myself because I have to travel the farthest. So we're trying to figure out how to make that part work.
How to make that work?
Yeah. So
we'll figure it out.
Exactly. So so stay tuned for that, guys. And, as usual, if you guys want to help support the podcast, you can always go to store.welcomehomepodcast.com. We've got mugs and t-shirts and stuff there that you guys can pick up if you want to have something with the logo on it. If you are planning a Disney trip and you need some t-shirts, we were talking about having, good clothes for going to the park. Maybe consider getting a Welcome Home Podcast shirt to go in with that.
Welcome Home underwear coming soon. Just kidding.
No, I did not approve that.
Why not?
Yeah. Well, no.
Anyway.
And as usual, as you guys are listening to us on iTunes or any other service that you can leave reviews, please do leave us a review. We obviously we would like 5 stars, but if you don't want to give us 5 stars, we understand it. Hopefully you've gotten this far and we haven't bored you to sleep, as some people like to think. But yeah, we do want to hear those reviews, and hopefully they'll be constructive.
Yeah, and not boring. Put me to sleep.
Yeah.
Don't forget to subscribe to Welcome Home Podcast so you can be reminded every time we release a new episode. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, just about any podcast app out there. You can find us. Just search for the one that's for Welcome Home and search for the one that says DVC and Disney. That's us. And just a reminder to our listeners, as always, Welcome Home Podcast is for entertainment only. We are not employed by the Walt Disney Company, and as such, all opinions we express on the show are our own. So please consult a DVC representative or Disney cast member for more information about anything we talked about today. Huge thank you to DVC Rental Store for sponsoring this episode. Thank you for their continued partnership. Oh gosh. We've been talking for too long. I can't talk anymore. My gosh. Join us next time for more Disney Parks discussion. Of course, more DVC talk. We hope to see you all real soon.
This is Skipper Albert Awol, the voice of the jungle, signing off from Welcome Home Podcast on the DVC.
Do a huddle when we hit a chair. How she can cuddle is no man's affair. I looked around from pole to pole, found her in a sugar bowl.